Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience podcast. Today I have with me Brian Gregory. Brian is the CEO and founder of ADMANITY. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Roman. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Well, I think like most entrepreneurs, it's a pretty twisted path that leads us where we want to go. And I started out, I guess the most recent relevant place we can start is I was in publishing. I didn't really want to be in publishing. I sort of inherited a magazine as part of a business transaction. And so one day I owned a magazine, and the very next day I had to learn how to sell ads because that's how magazines live. And so for 20 years, I sold ads to small businesses of every kind you can imagine. And I began to have a real good empathy for their fears and their phobias and their hopes and dreams as well. And what they would hope the advertising would do for them. And what, everyone here wants to have an overnight success. And so we would do the best we could, but I found that a lot of the advertising that they would give us was not the best. They just weren't experts in how to create great messaging. So over the years, I try to help them and try to help them design their ads. And it came down to a study of emotionality in human nature, basically, why people buy things. Because that's all the people that were buying ads wanted. They just wanted some results. It's fair enough. And but they didn't know how to get them. And in the beginning, neither did I. And I felt awful because I was selling them something and then it wouldn't work and then they'd blame me. And I didn't want that anymore, as you can imagine. So I launched myself into a study that took years to figure out why ads work, what emotions trigger them, how can the average small business harness this almost hidden knowledge that they don't teach in schools. And it is the knowledge that ad agencies are aware of, but if you cannot pay that admission price, you won't get it. And that launched me into ADMANITY, and it's a long journey, but I'm glad it did. It gave me a skill set that I would never have had otherwise, and I think we can help a lot of people with it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of branding and marketing, I think it's important. Like, obviously, we're on a podcast or however you're reaching audiences online, whether it's paid, paid search, paid social, organic efforts, interviews, PR. It's important to really obviously showcase your brand, who your brand is and what differentiates you from your brand and your value proposition. And I think adding a human element to your brand really helps on the selling process as well.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, once you know the formula, so to speak, for your brand, we studied all the great ads, and they all come down to formula. Sooner or later, you can start to just realize, oh, there we go again. It's the same formulas being used over and over. Once you have your formulas, you can use them for social media. You can use them for print, TV, radio, or your website or funnels. Anything you're doing will use the same formulas over and over again. The trick is to know them, and that's what AdManity does. Is we just sort of shortcut the system. Why waste all that money, all those years of frustration? Let's just give you the formulas today so you can just move on with things. And you're right, it's emotion is very important.
Yeah, I think it's important, like obviously having avenues and channels where you can fast track in terms of, a knowledge dump, someone that's already done it, somebody that's already ran tests or has the numbers behind something. Because, I mean, I've been in the digital marketing field for going on 13 years now. And like, in terms of like the wisdom that I've gained through actually running things versus reading things is immense. And then testing things and applying them in different industries that may have not been really showcased or done because people didn't necessarily want to do it for one reason or another. Sometimes regulatory in terms of like pharma, life sciences, financial services, but really carrying things over that are tried and true and actually work and delivering value that way.
That's good. I mean, it's good that you put in the time. There's no substitute for just doing the right thing over and over until you get it right. And then you can advise other people so much faster. Hopefully they'll listen to you and you can get on with it. And isn't that a trademark of today? Everybody wants it fast and tomorrow because digital has made us believe that everything is just one click away. and overnight success. You're a billionaire tomorrow because you have a thing on the internet today. And it isn't that way. And it still comes down to good old fashioned human emotions and why I like you or why I don't. I don't like that for some reason. Well, it's emotional. I guarantee it is. It's not the facts and figures that sell a brand. They can always be argued. It's the emotions that sell it. And I wish there was a course in college or even high school to show people how critical it is to get that done first before you start buying ads all over the internet. But right now there isn't. Right now we're one of the one-stop shop locations for it. So someday we'll all know this stuff, but for now it's a little bit of a mystery for most people.
Yeah, and I think personal brand and personal brand development, even though you're not technically focusing on it, you're doing it. So I think it's important, especially younger people, what they put online and how they portray themselves, because obviously, if you post something, it's going to be archived regardless if you delete it or not. So I think it's important to think about aspects like that as well.
Yeah, we're all built with the same DNA essentially. We're all human. We're human 1.0, and human 2.0 may be coming someday, and then maybe some of the rules will change when that happens, but it hasn't happened yet. You have all the same emotions in you as Caesar, Mozart, Shakespeare, and Aristotle, and we still remember their brands to this day, thousands of years later. And the reason is because they were masters of their of human emotionality and what they did, and that's why it lasted. And so much of digital and marketing today is temporary. It's like, oh, tomorrow I got to do another one and another one and another one. It's almost like we're more consumed with replacing the last message we just put out. And the path to success is probably a little more of staying consistent with the message and hammering it and hammering it. And once you know what it is and it starts working, most agency people would tell you, don't fix it. Just keep it going because it's working.
Yeah, I agree. So, what motivates you to succeed? Obviously, those motivations may have changed over time, but what currently motivates you to succeed?
Well, for one, I think you have to really hate failure. You can't be comfortable with failure, and if and because if you do, you're going to fail a lot more. And failure is just a step to success. Really, it's just if you have persistence, you're not going to give up, and you shouldn't expect to be successful overnight. So you need the failures to point out the path you should have taken. I am motivated. I like to help people. That's my main mission right now. I know some things that I can help people with. I've put in the time, I've put in the hours. My card has been punched, and now I'm worthless if I don't help others with that. This information shouldn't stay on my side of the fence. Everybody on earth that has a business should know this stuff. And so that motivates me a lot to think that how many people could I help? If could I change a life? Could a guy with a really bad brand have $1 million brand next year because he figured it out? And maybe I had a part in that. I would like to think we could help that kind of person. And our goal here at ADMANITY is to help millions of small business owners and marketers and managers to figure out their brand lightning fast, overnight, if you will, and then apply those tactics and strategies forever.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's crucial. And what happened in 2020 and the situation we're still in 2021 in terms of small businesses struggling. A lot of businesses, if they can, obviously moving online to online sales and things of that nature. So I think figuring it out is oftentimes a lifeline for businesses, and then not everybody really thinks of that direct correlation in terms of like marketing. You're helping a company add livelihood, add revenue, possibly not fire, lay off people and hire new people. So it's kind of
Mhm.
like an ecosystem and a cycle that people don't necessarily think about.
Yeah, as we record this, we are in this COVID landscape that we all find ourselves in. All the rules have changed, and for some, it may seem hopeless. And many people may say, this is great information, but I don't have any money to advertise. Not now. I can't even afford rent or whatever, the basic expenses are. And if I can offer some hope, this will not last forever. There will be a recovery. And when the bounce comes, and there will be a bounce, everyone's going to be anxious to get back in the pool, right? Everyone wants it to just be the way it was a year ago. And you do not want to be the last surfer into the water when the wave comes. And so what we teach people a little bit is there's so much you can do right now for free. Words are free, emotions are free, formulas, things like this you could do right now. Your copy and your website, it could be better, admit it. Your funnel could be a little tighter. The emotions, have you figured them all out really and truly? Do you really know? Could you write a book report on that right now? And if not, maybe it's time to get some advice, because when it does happen, it's going to happen very, very fast. And people are all going to race to get back in the water. And you want to be the one that's already sitting on your surfboard, I think, when the wave comes. It's very important right now.
Yeah, I agree. So, what's one thing that you may have seen as a weakness in yourself in the past that you've turned around and utilized as a strength today?
It's a good question. It's hard to analyze your weaknesses. Um, One of my favorite quotes is Clint Eastwood, where he's standing over the guy in Dirty Harry, and he says, he just shot the guy, and he says, a man's got to know his limitations. And I always thought that was just great advice, because we all focus on our strengths. We don't want to talk about those limitations. Those are the ones that sink your battleship. Your strengths don't sink your battleship. You're ignoring your weaknesses do. And in the beginning, I think I had a lack of self-confidence that I could possibly have something that would be of interest to another person. I think a lot of small business marketers and today especially feel that way. Like, who would listen to me? I'm not rich. I'm not super successful. I'm not Elon Musk. It doesn't matter. Do you have an insight that might help? You have no idea. You think you're lost. I guarantee there's people more lost than you are, right? And they're looking for some help. You're somebody's level of life saver. And in the early days, I didn't think I was, and I couldn't believe it when anybody listened to me. And I was young, and I was a good salesperson, but I doubted myself. And over the years, I've learned not to do that. You have to force yourself to slap yourself right now. If you have self-doubt, you have something, or you wouldn't be around. So try to focus on your strengths and ignore the fact of whatever you think your weaknesses are. Doesn't really matter anyway. Nobody cares about those. Nobody wants to hear about them. Focus on what you do and do well and do it.
Yeah, I think especially now, it's been kind of a reoccurring theme where, figure out what your strengths are and how to monetize those. So, what your strengths are, possibly you're an expert in something you may have not been doing, how you can monetize it, how you can help other people with it, how you can share your knowledge. So, like you said, so thinking about like, I'm not good at, finances. Okay, well, your business eventually, if you started it, you may not necessarily want to focus on the financial aspects in terms of like a CFO role or, an internal, payroll or billing thing. But when you first start out, you kind of have that all on you. So not dwell on that, because you can always find an expert in something to kind of fill those holes or plug those holes in whatever you feel like your weaknesses are.
And I think a lot of people today, they feel like they have to be the entrepreneur, because if you read your news feeds, all you hear is somebody who went from zero to hero, or some celebrity who's launched a new line of something, and all of a sudden they're trillionaires. And we have this impression that we have to be this great entrepreneur in this digital age. And I think there are people who are naturally suited to it, or maybe they have readied themselves to take that step right now. And if you're not one of those people, if you're not quite ready, or if that scares you to death, instead of trying to be the entrepreneur, maybe find an entrepreneur who is capable and make yourself indispensable to them. Become their reliable person. You'll one day get there. But latch on to a rising star if you can't create your own. And I think that's either strategy is great, but one of those two should work for you.
Yeah, and I think adding value, obviously, if you come to somebody and they're, 10, 20 years down the line where you want to be, their time is consumed with different things, opposed to you. So they have a lot more going on, in different aspects. So they're more likely to, respond or be receptive if you can alleviate a pain point or free up some of their time, instead of just asking, can I pick your brain for an hour? Because most people are so hectic, even when this whole work from home and, shelter in place, whatever is going on wherever you are in the world, that they're still busy. So anything you can add of value, I mean, I personally am more receptive to that when people reach out to me in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because not everybody, you don't want to be a burden to somebody. You want to be the thing they can't live without, right? And then you'll be just rocketed up the ladder so much faster. And I think we want to eliminate all the things that take our time, take away from our, especially when we're at home. There's a million distractions. You don't want to become an expert in marketing. You really don't. And I know everyone says, well, wait, I want to be an expert in marketing. No, you just want to know what all the experts know. You just want to be able to say, this is what you do. This is what you do. You don't want to go through the years of figuring this stuff out. It took me 20 years to get to where I am now. Nobody wants to do that. Most people want 20 minutes for these days. So try to find the fast tracks, get on the escalators, don't get on the stairs. And we consider ourselves at ADMANITY. We think that we're one of those things. We can save you years, but more than that, money, just tons of money. And the mistakes that are being made now have been made for decades. And that's what I saw when I had the magazine is same things over and over, same problem, same solution, wrong. And they would just, because nobody had taught them any different. They weren't stupid people. These were smart business people making what I would call ignorant mistakes because they just didn't know. And business people don't wait around. They take a swing, right? They'll swing at something. They won't wait. And then often it would be wrong. And then it's very, it's a bummer when you do your best and it just isn't good enough. So find somebody like us who can coach you up and give you the answers quicker. I think that's the better advice today.
Yeah, I agree. So, what's one piece of advice you can leave with the audience, personal or professional?
Oh boy. I think most people start too late and quit too early. Um, and I had a career in sports before I got into all this marketing stuff. And one of the things I was training for the Olympic team at the time. And one of the things you learn in amateur sports is that you're going to do this every day as if it was the only thing on the planet Earth. You're going to have absolutely no guarantee that you will remain healthy and you won't just end up on the injured list, nor do you have any guarantee that you're going to win anything, nor do you guarantee that it's going to make any money. And yet you still do this, and it teaches you the persistence of it. And as you rise through the ranks, you realize I'm winning because other guys are just quitting. Some of these guys were better than me, but they just quit, but they didn't apply themselves. And you win by attrition. You win by persistence. Nothing good happens overnight. Very rare. We all love to read the story, but it isn't the Cinderella story for most of us. So I would say, be prepared for the journey. Learn every step of the way. Be persistent and don't start too late. Start now.
Yeah, I agree. Like you mentioned, a lot of the companies you see today or are there because they simply outlasted through everything, innovated. So even if you look at the Fortune 500 list 10, 20, 30 years ago, majority of those companies aren't on that list. And, the ones that outlasted, the ones that adapted and innovated are the ones that survived.
Yeah, I have a podcast. One of the topics is called Torpedoes in the Water. And you imagine the torpedoes that could come towards your ship now instead of when they actually happen, and prepare ahead of time. And the average entrepreneur who's made it has, I don't know, a bunch of stories about how they were this close to going out of business and losing everything. Every single time they have these stories. And that should tell you something. They persevered. It would have been easy to quit and nobody would have blamed them. COVID is a game changer. That's one of the torpedoes. Nobody thought of a pandemic. I mean, when's the last time a pandemic was something you should think about? And
1918.
yeah, yeah, and all of a sudden, oh, this can happen. And now that means we have to be prepared. If you don't have a pandemic plan in your business book right now, you should, because it could happen again. So, look for those types of things and prepare for them and just be persistent. You're going to have to be.
Yeah, I agree. So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Yeah, there's a couple ways. You can go to admanity.com. That's just AD for ad and then man, ITY, admanity.com. And then if you want to get a free report that'll help you understand why emotions sell everything and how you can arm your brand up for COVID and everything else that's may come your way, you can go to admanity.com/digital savage, and there'll be a free report that you can download there. And I'm also on LinkedIn. If you go to Brian Gregory, ADMANITY, I'm on LinkedIn. And unlike a lot of people on LinkedIn, I will actually answer you if you email me, and I will engage with you and answer your questions. And we can help you change your brand very, very quickly. And our report, by the way, sells for $397. So it doesn't break anybody. We're not here to cost a lot of money. We're here to help. And so uh, everybody reach out to me if you'd like to.
Awesome. Thanks again for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, Roman.